Greetings! Today on my Focus RS, I am installing the uprated fuel filter setup from Radium Engineering. Alright, here we are then, the Radium fuel filter kit for the Focus RS, also compatible with the Focus ST, and it really does look wonderful, as does everything from Radium that I've ever seen installed, whatever. It just looks really cool, but also feels really excellent quality, like top-notch stuff. It's all made of aluminium, all the housings and everything, all the brackets, all the hardware, apart from obviously the little bag of screws which are stainless steel. But yeah, like the fuel filter housing, these brackets and everything, the fittings, all really lightweight but really nice strong aluminium. And yeah, you can see in there you've got the fuel filter element. Hopefully you can sort of see it in there, that thing that's got like the sort of radioactive symbol on it. You can replace the fuel filter elements, and indeed whenever you're buying this, you can select which one you want. You can probably notice that, if this would focus, I got the stainless steel 10 micron element. The other option that was available was the 6 micron. I think it's made of fiberglass or something, which is a little bit more of a fancy type of filter element. It has slightly better efficiency than the stainless, but the main difference is that these stainless ones, you can take these out, this green bit on the screws, you can take them out and you can clean it off and reuse it, whereas the micro glass one, you have to throw it away and replace, so you have to constantly keep buying them. So yeah, that was my rationale for getting the stainless one. It's going to be a nice upgrade, it's going to work well, but it's also going to be serviceable, which is great for the future. So when talking about servicing, this is something that hasn't been done on the car for a while, the replacement of the fuel filter. It's a bit wishy-washy with regards to information that you find out as to how often you should be replacing your fuel filter. Some people will say that it says in a handbook or whatever, a certain number of miles, but Ford technicians seem to think that you never have to replace the fuel filter, which is kind of weird. So I'm sort of taking it into my own hands and I am getting it replaced. So the options are either replace it with a like-for-like OEM fuel filter, or go for a nice upgrade, and a nice upgrade option out there is the Radium. So that is what I'm going to do. There are a couple of other reasons why this is a good upgrade to do, apart from the aforementioned serviceability of the filter element up inside of here. There are performance gains potentially. What Radium say is that this is less restrictive and therefore puts less stress on the fuel pump. I think they say 3.5 to 5 psi less. So that lower pressures means there's less current draw, which means less fuel temperature, and that less fuel temperature means a potential increase in fuel flow. They say between 2 and 4.5%. It's probably not something that you're going to notice unless you're running other fuel system upgrades, such as bigger injectors or whatever, but it's a nice thing to have for potential future mods. So yeah, just a lot of reasons to do this, and of course it looks amazing like we said already. So without further ado, let's get the installation started. Okay, before we even go out to the car, we can actually do some prep work here on the fuel filter, getting some of these bits put together in preparation for installation. So in order to do that, we need a few things. Obviously, we need our little pack of nuts and bolts. We need a 4mm Allen key, an 8mm wrench spanner or little socket, and then I have this, which is an adjustable spanner for aluminium. This is made of aluminium, so that I can tighten aluminium fixings, which is obviously what we have. These are what we're going to be using to tighten that with, and the reason why is if you use something like steel on aluminium fittings, it can damage it because steel is a harder metal, and that's obviously not what you want. But if you have an aluminium one, then aluminium on aluminium shouldn't damage it in the same way, and obviously we don't want to damage our nice anodized finish here. So that's what this is for. You could use a big socket if you really wanted, or you could use a steel spanner, but just put some kind of a bit of a rag or something to protect the fittings when doing so. And then the only other thing we need is a little bit of light oil, and what we need that for is to lubricate these O-rings that are on the barb fittings. Okay, so with our fitting here, I'll just get a little dab of the oil on my finger, and then I will run that along the edge of the O-ring. Obviously, we don't want it dripping, we don't want loads on there, just enough to lubricate it. And then I'll screw it in by hand to begin with. And then do the same for the other side, and then we will tighten up. So the size that this requires is 1 inch. If you have one of these adjustable spanners, then obviously that doesn't really matter. So yeah, just get it nice and reasonably tight. Okay, that feels pretty good. And obviously whenever we have that in there, we should no longer be able to see the little O-ring. Hopefully on this side that I haven't tightened yet, you can still see the little brown O-ring there. But now that it's tightened, the O-ring has basically disappeared, won't screw in anymore, it feels nice and tight. So that's the fuel filter ready. Now we can move on to sorting out the bracket. So we'll be holding it like this with these folded bits up at the top. We can see 1, 2, 3 holes, and those line up with this part. So if we just drop that on there, hopefully you can see those holes line up, and that is the orientation of how that needs to go. So then we grab 3 of our little nuts and bolts. So we pop these through, and then we use the Allen key to secure them, along with our 8mm on the rear side. So I'm going to do these with, but you know, they don't necessarily say that you have to, some blue thread locker, because I don't think that it ever hurt anyone. They do describe these as locking, which I think is a virtue of the slightly oval shape, but it's not like they're, you know, nylock nuts or anything. So I'm just going to put a little dab of blue thread locker onto the threads here, just to make sure that they don't come out under vibration. So if we start off just with this piece, drop it through there, get it through the bracket, and get started on the threads. So I've got it on the threads sort of lightly, then use our little 8mm just to like hold it, and then I'll use the Allen key to tighten. So obviously that's the first one. We don't want to get it like too tight yet. We want to get all of them in place first. So I'll repeat that process for all 3. Obviously, if you want to, you could, like, you know, flip the script and hold it with the Allen key and tighten it. Actually, that might be easier, yeah. So just get them all nice and tight. And then that is that part of the installation process done. We have our lower half of the bracket complete. So now we can get the fuel filter housing into this semicircular part and then get the little top part secured on. Alright, so similar thing, I'm just going to put a little bit of blue thread locker onto the remaining 2 little bolts here, just to make sure that they stay where they are meant to be. Alright, so for securing this down then, it's important that the orientation of our housing is correct. So the way that this needs to be is the green portion, the outlet, has to be pointing towards the small end of like this like triangular section. So essentially it is like this right here. So I mean, as far as then the rotation, that doesn't really matter, but you know, I think you know, you want to have the radium, logo pointing sort of kind of downwards, I think, so that we see it if we're ever underneath the car looking at it. So yeah, we then pop the little cover on, which can only go on one way. It will only line up in one orientation, and then we just pop our little bolts into the 2 holes and tighten them down. We'll start off just getting these loosely in place. Again, same 4mm Allen key. So once they're most of the way in, but not tight, you know, such that we can still kind of move the filter housing. What we want to make sure is that the filter housing, there's no real gap here. We want to have it right at the end. So basically just transitioning straight onto that nice green stuff. So essentially like right there. And once we're there, then we will tighten these down proper. Alright, there we go. So that is the assembly of all of our parts here that we get in the pack. So now we are ready to go out to the car. Alright, so the fuel filter is located underneath the car, but the first thing that we have to do, in fact the first couple of things we do from inside the car. So first thing we have to do is access the fuse panel that is in the passenger side footwell. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is to remove these little plastic things that are holding the panel cover in place. There we go. So it just flops down. So the one that we need to remove is, it's a 20 amp fuse, and it is the top left hand side in there. So if I try and get a little closer here, the very top left one, not sure how easy it is to see in the camera there, but that is a little number 20 on it. It's one of those yellow ones. So the very top left, we will pop that out right now. So this fuse is controlling the electronic fuel pump. So essentially what we need to do now is fire the car up and just let it basically choke itself out. It won't be able to get any fuel, so it'll just burn off what it has in the lines, and then that will basically release the pressure that is on the fuel filter at the moment, and then that will allow us to go in, do the replacement without any like spurting of fuel around. Alright, inside the car then, we just simply turn it on, like fire the engine up, and then wait for it to essentially die, and then that will be the pressure relieved in the system. It should not last very long at all. Oh, and there it goes. Lasted longer than I thought it might, but there you go. Okay, here we are then underneath the car at the location of the fuel filter, the stock fuel filter, of course, still installed. So in terms of like location of where we are, we're like right near the rear of the car, just behind the fuel tank. It's pretty hard to show you, but you know, if you just sort of scooch under the car, you'll find this area. Okay, so what we have to do here is remove some clips, and there are 4 connections. Okay, so we have a couple of hard lines here, and in one of them, the one that's sort of closest to us, there's a green clip, so we need to remove that, and we only really need to remove that to get access up in here to the fuel filter. Then around the sort of one side and looping around to here into the other hard line, there are 2 connections which both have a white clip. and then at the other end of the fuel filter down there, right there, there is a black clip. So essentially what we need to do right now is we need to remove the black one at the back there, the green one here at the front, and this white one at the front. We don't need to do the white one at the back here because that, like I was saying, is on the other end of this flexi pipe, and we're just going to take that all the way out whenever we take the stock fuel filter out. So we just need to disconnect it from the hard line here. So yeah, these all are like the exact same type of clip. They all work in the same way. So essentially there's two parts to it. On one side there is a locking clip which sort of like slides in and clicks and locks the assembly in place. So what we need to do first is there's like two little legs. There's like one here and one on the other side. So I find the best way to do this is to sort of reach in and like pry those little legs apart and then pull it towards you, and then this clip, the locking clip, should come out. Then what we will find, which is going to be hard to really see, is that the other side of it, you press it in, and that will release it and allow us to pull this to the side and remove it from the hard line here. So like I was saying, if you can get your fingers on there, just pry them out and it'll pop out just like that. You can take it all the way out, but you don't necessarily need to. It just needs to come out far enough that it is loosened. Then, like I was saying, you press the other side and that will allow us to pry this open. Now, because this is the fuel line, you'll want to have like a rag or something ready just to get up in here, kind of like that, just to, you know, stop it from dripping on you, because you don't want to get fuel on you, and especially you don't want to get fuel in your eyes. So it might be a good idea, just as an extra safety precaution, to wear some safety glasses. So I might just go ahead and take this clip all the way out and off. So there, that's off. So now, like I was saying before, we reach in and the other side of the green thing, we press it inward, and that will like allow us, it'll sort of release it and allow us to pull these two sections apart. So you get it pushed in real good. I can feel it, it's starting to go. So before I do it all the way, I'm just going to completely cover this with my rag and then finish off the removal. You see it's all the way out there, and you know what, not much fuel came out there. In fact, I'm not sure if any came out, which is good. So yeah, do that process then, like I was saying, for this white one closest to you and the black one at that end of the can. So I got a little bit of drippage out of that one, so just kind of hold my rag here to absorb it. So yeah, that one wants to drip quite a bit, so just sort of leaving my rag underneath there to catch that. So there we are then, that is the three connections that we need to undo underneath the car right now. So you see those two little nuts right there, we need to remove those two nuts, and those are 10mm. Essentially what we're doing there, once we remove those, that is the bracket for the stock filter. So once we remove those, then we can remove the stock assembly out of the car. Okay, so with those off, we can gently remove the stock assembly out of there, and it will drip more, of course. And out we come. Okay, so here we have the stock assembly out of the car. So with it out of the car, we can do a little bit of a side-by-side comparison with our new Radium unit. You can see, obviously, we have a much nicer just everything. Hopefully you can see where we need to be reusing this flexi line. We just need to pop that off the same way as we did with the other three and install that onto our new Radium fuel filter on this side, on the green side, the outlet side. So let's do that now. Very simple, exactly the same like I was saying before. Just pop that off, and if you want to, keep prying and take it all the way off. So it's probably a good opportunity to show you the other side of this, because it maybe wasn't so easy underneath the car. The other side of these is a big, you know, tab that is designed, you know, for a finger or a thumb to push it in. So whenever you push that, it sort of expands those little wings, which is what releases it and allows us to then push and pull. Oh, there we go. So the last thing, as you can see, this is like located in the stock bracket with a little tree clip. Can you see it there? Essentially we just need to grab this and give it a good old yank. So yeah, get rid of this and we will get the radium set up. We need to get this installed into the new radium. The way that we want to do this, you may notice I've got my little cap of light oil again. Radium suggests you put a little bit of light oil onto the barbs, I think specifically this little lip, just to aid installation. Okay, so our flexi pipe has a straight end and an angled end. The angled end is the one that we want to use for our outlet side, our green side, the one that we are connecting right now. The flat side is then going to sort of go underneath the can here. So what we want to do is literally just, it's probably actually easier to start off looping that underneath like that, then bringing it up and clicking it in. We should hear a click once we push it in. Beautiful. So then we can grab our little white locking clip and it literally just slides on again until it clicks into place. Nice, simple and easy. And then you may have noticed that there is a little hole down at the bottom here in the radium bracket, which our little Christmas tree clip will go into. So we just line that up and push it in. Alright, excellent. So that is our setup ready to go back into the car. So what I'll be doing whenever I get up in there is I will be positioning it, specifically positioning the bracket, these two holes where the threads are up there, and then securing this in place with the two stock nuts that we took off before. So obviously the first stage is to get it up in here past everything. So I had to turn the camera off just to figure out a better way of getting those nuts back on. Well, one of them, the one that you can actually see there, absolutely fine. You can just use the gun or whatever to get that in. But the other one, you can't even see. Just with the increased size of the radium setup, you just cannot get to that second nut. So what I had to do was I had to end up popping this off so that I could move it out of the way as much as possible, and then it was just super duper awkward. I couldn't see what I was doing. I was just going by feel to get the other nut in place and then pop the connection back in place. But yeah, it's done now. Looks good, but yeah, very challenging to get that second nut back. But anyway, we could go ahead and just reconnect everything back up where it would have been before. So the black plastic connection on the other side of the radium can, and then the other connections as they were. Alright, and with that, that is everything that we need to do underneath the car done. Alright, back inside the car, because the next thing we need to do is re-enable our fuel pump. So that is a simple case of reinstalling our 20 amp fuse that we removed earlier. So getting it into position and gently pushing in. Very simple indeed. Then we can replace this cover. The next thing then that we want to do is we want to turn the ignition on. So no clutch, so we're not trying to fire the engine up at this point. We are just trying to get the fuel system primed essentially. Now that we have our fuel pump re-engaged, start to get the flow of fuel through the filter and get it ready to fire up. So at this point actually I can jump underneath, just check for leaks. I don't think there could be any leaks, everything connected up really nice and securely, but I'll just jump underneath here and see. Yeah, well, nothing's dripping, so that's a good sign. Okay, so now I will actually try and start the engine up. Hey-oh. Excellent. So yeah, that's a pretty good sign that it actually fires up now that we have our new fuel filter installed. And yeah, so essentially at this point what we'll do is we'll just let it idle for a couple of minutes, just let it, you know, get that flow of fuel going through there nicely, and then we'll be good to go. Installation complete. I will jump underneath and check for leaks again in a second here, but the fact that there wasn't any whenever we had the ignition on initially, I'm pretty happy with that. So yeah, there we go. That is the installation finished of the Radium fuel filter setup, the upgraded fuel filter setup, and I think it's absolutely great. You know, it looks awesome, obviously. Those uprated materials just look so great. The engineering, the precision, everything that Radium does just looks amazing and is done to the highest of quality. The installation was fairly simple. You know, there's not really too much difficulty or complicated stuff there, apart from that second little nut, the one that's sort of on the inner bit. Whenever you install the Radium setup, it's a bit more chunky, bigger, and it's really difficult to get at that second nut. You have to just kind of do it by feel, you know, get your little fingers up in there and just get it done whatever way you can. But I mean, other than that, installation very simple, and yeah, I'm super happy with it. I hope you like it as much as I do, and I hope you like this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please do like, share and subscribe for more content to come very, very soon. Thank you once again. Goodbye.